There's a kind of silence that breaks people more than a scream ever could. A silence born from pain, from exhaustion. Not the physical kind, but the one that quietly eats at your spirit. It asks the silence of someone who has been holding it all together for far too long. You know it. That feeling of pretending you're okay when everything inside you is cracking. Of smiling when you're actually falling apart. Of answering, "I'm fine," when your chest feels like it's caving in. People don't see that. They only see what you let them see. The surface, the calm, the fake peace. But beneath that, there's a war raging. And not just any war, a war for your very soul. You've been fighting battles no one claps for, winning wars that no one sees, because you never let your pain speak. You swallowed every scream, choked on every tear, and kept walking like nothing was wrong. That's not weakness. That's strength in its rawest form. Silent, invisible, and deadly. Have you ever felt heavy even when you're standing still? Like your body is moving, but your soul is dragging a weight that no one else can see? That's the burden of those who never quit, who never complain, who keep going, even when the world keeps giving them reasons to stop. You carry the weight of every expectation, every disappointment, every almost. People don't get it. They think being strong means never falling, but you've fallen more times than you can count. And every time you got back up. Not because you had to, but because something inside you refused to stay down. That voice, small, tired, cracked, still whispered, "Get up." And you listened, every time, even when it hurt, even when it felt pointless. That's the kind of strength no one talks about. Not the loud victories, but the quiet survival. The unseen resilience, the kind that doesn't need applause, just space to breathe. You've worn so many masks, you forgot what your real face looks like. One for friends, one for strangers, one for family, and one for yourself, when you're alone in the dark, pretending you're fine. It's not about lying, it's about protecting. You build walls, not to keep others out, but to keep yourself in. Safe from disappointment, from judgment, from more pain. But every wall you build becomes a prison. And one day, you look in the mirror and don't recognize who's staring back. That's not weakness. That's survival. Because sometimes, showing emotion means giving your enemies ammunition. So you stayed quiet. You smiled. You worked. You endured. But now those masks are heavy. And you're tired of pretending. Tired of shrinking to make others comfortable. Tired of carrying pain in silence. You're not just a survivor. You're a volcano pretending to be a pebble. But the ground beneath you is starting to crack. Then it happens. Not in a dramatic explosion, but in a quiet moment when something inside you shifts. You stop apologizing. Stop shrinking. Stop playing small just to make others feel big. Because you realize the monster inside you isn't your enemy. It's your protector. That rage, that pain, that fire, it's power. It's the part of you that never gave up. The one that kept fighting when your hope was gone. People told you to calm down, to let go. But you've held in too much for too long. You weren't meant to be tame. You were meant to rise, to burn, to become. And now, that monster inside you, it's done waiting. It's hungry. Not for revenge, but for transformation. You don't need their approval. You don't need their love. You are enough. You always were. You just forgot. But now, you remember. With every step you take, you leave behind the lies they told you. That you weren't strong enough. That you weren't worthy. That you'd never make it. You take all of it. The pain, the doubt, the silence, and turn it into fuel. Your stride becomes heavier, more powerful. The world tries to hold you back, but you're faster. You're louder. You're awake. You've outgrown your fear. Outrun your past. You no longer carry wounds. You wear them like armor. Not because you want to fight everyone, but because now, no one can hurt you the way they used to. The same voice that once whispered, "Give up," now screams, "Go further." You no longer move to survive. You move to conquer. Every failure was training. Every heartbreak was a lesson. And now, you are the storm they never saw coming. Before you reach the top, there's always one final battle. And it's never with the world. It's with yourself. The version of you that played small, that accepted less, that feared more. That version fights to survive. But you didn't come this far to stay the same. So you look it in the eye, the fear, the insecurity, the trauma, and you say, "Thank you, but you're no longer in control." The fight is brutal, emotional, silent, but every punch is a decision. Every block is a boundary. And when the dust settles, you're still standing, changed, sharpened, free. The old you fades. Not in defeat, but in gratitude, because without that version of you, this one wouldn't exist. This is rebirth. Not a restart, not a clean slate, but a transformation built on everything you've endured. You don't forget the pain. You honor it. You don't erase the past, you build from it. You're not who you were, and you'll never be again. You are the storm, the flame, the chaos that creates order. People won't understand you. They'll call you intense, too much, cold, different. Let them, because they didn't see you crawl through the dark. They didn't hear your silent screams. They didn't feel the weight you carried. But now, they'll feel your presence, and it will shake the ground they stand on. You are no longer the victim, no longer the quiet one. You are the monster they should fear. Not because you destroy, but because you've survived everything meant to break you, and you're still here. Greatness doesn't come with applause. It comes with silence, with long nights, with hard choices. The higher you climb, the lonelier it gets. Because not everyone is meant to follow. Not everyone has the stomach to endure what you've endured. They said you changed, but how could you not? You've seen the truth. You felt the cold reality of being your only backup, your only lifeline. And that changes a person. It hardens your spirit, sharpens your instincts. The world used to feel warm, familiar. Now, it feels distant. But that's not a curse. That's clarity. You've outgrown the noise, the lies, the false comfort. Real power doesn't shout. It walks alone, silent and sure. The old you would have begged for company. The new you walks forward, even if it's alone, especially if it's alone. Then comes the calling. That one moment when everything in your life suddenly makes sense. Every pain, every loss, every failure. They weren't random. They were signs, markings, clues on a map only you could read. And now, you're here, on the edge of something massive. You feel it in your bones. You were never meant for the ordinary. Your soul always craves something more, something untouchable, unreal, divine. But getting here wasn't the miracle. The miracle is that you survived the journey, and now the door is open. Not everyone hears the call. Fewer still answer. But you were made for this. You didn't choose this path. It chose you, because deep inside you is a force the world tried to bury, and the world's about to regret that mistake. This is not evolution. This is ascension. You are no longer tied to who you were. The world you knew, the fears, the opinions, the limitations, they don't apply here. Here, only truth matters. And the truth is, you are not human in the way they meant it. You are willpower. You are rage turned into purpose, pain turned into prophecy. Every lesson they forced on you became a weapon. Every betrayal became armor. You no longer fear being misunderstood. You fear wasting your gift. Because now you see clearly, they didn't reject you because you were weak. They rejected you because your power reminded them of what they'll never become. And that's not your burden to carry. You're not here to be accepted. You're here to rise. And now, you're unstoppable. When you finally become who you were always meant to be, the world changes. Not because it bends to your will, but because it no longer controls you. You see everything differently now. Not as it is, but as it could be. Fear doesn't grip you. Failure doesn't haunt you. Even time feels slower, like the universe is waiting for your command. And it is. Because you are no longer reacting. You are choosing. You are designing your life with intention, with clarity, with fury. Every breath you take now echoes with purpose. You don't wait for signs. You are the sign. And for those who still doubt you, they're not ready for what's coming. Because now you're not seeking the path. You are the path. The greatest revenge isn't power, it's legacy. Not the kind written in books, but the kind that lives in people's hearts. You didn't just survive, you became a blueprint, a signal fire for every soul who feels like they don't belong. Your story, the pain, the rise, the transformation, it's not just yours anymore. It's fuel, it's inspiration, it's proof that even in the darkest moments, there's hope, that even the broken can lead, that monsters aren't always destroyers. Sometimes, they're the saviors. And now, as others begin to follow, you realize the pain wasn't pointless. The struggle wasn't wasted, because now, you're not just living, you're leading. And that is the true meaning of power. You were never broken, you were becoming.